If you look up study music on YouTube, there's a good chance you'll find something unexpected near the top. Minecraft music. Playlists title things like Minecraft music for studying, relaxing Minecraft soundtrack, or ambient game music to focus have millions of views. The same tracks that were originally designed for a sandbox video game are now being used by students to write essays, do homework, and focus for hours at a time. Songs like Sweden and Wet Hands have quietly become part of people's daily productivity routines, far removed from the game itself. So the question is, why Minecraft? There are countless video game soundtracks out there, many more complex, more emotional, and more technically impressive. Games like Skyrim or Legend of Zelda have sweeping orchestral scores designed to be memorable and powerful, but those aren't the soundtracks that dominate study playlists in the same way. Instead, it's Minecraft, a game with sparse piano pieces, long silences, and music that often fades into the background. This essay argues that this is not a coincidence. The core idea is that the same musical features that support Minecraft's open-ended, non-linear gameplay are also what make it ideal for sustained concentration. In other words, the music was never redesigned to become study music. It already had the structural qualities that make it effective for focus. The only thing that changed was how people used it. And to understand why, we need to first look at what Minecraft's music is actually doing inside the game itself. Minecraft is fundamentally different from most other video games in how it structures experience. There's no strict narrative, no linear progression, and no clearly defined emotional arc that the player is meant to follow. You can explore, build, mine, or just wander, all at your own pace with no required order or urgency. The game doesn't push you to move forward in the same way that story-driven games do. And because of this, the music serves a very different role than in traditional games. In many games, music is tightly synchronized with events. Combat has intense scoring. Characters have themes, and major moments are reinforced with dramatic musical cues. The soundtrack is constantly guiding the player's emotion, telling them when to feel tension, excitement, or relief. Minecraft just avoids all of this. Instead, its music is intermittent rather than continuous. Tracks are triggered occasionally and somewhat unpredictably, often after long stretches of silence. There's no constant music layer running in the background. In fact, silence is a core part of the experience. There's no combat scoring. Whether you're calmly building a house or suddenly encountering danger, the music doesn't shift dramatically to match the situation. Similarly, there's no character themes or narrative motifs because there are no fixed characters or story arcs to support. What this creates is a soundtrack that doesn't attempt to control or direct the player's emotional experience. Instead, it exists alongside the gameplay, enhancing the immersion without imposing meaning onto it. And the key idea here is that the music is designed to support presence, not progression. It fills the space without defining it. And this is where the connection to studying begins to emerge. Just like Minecraft gameplay, studying is not about following a dramatic arc or reacting to constant emotional cues. It's about maintaining a steady, self-directed flow of attention over time. In Minecraft's music, by avoiding constant direction and emotional signaling, creates exactly that kind of environment. One of the most important features of Minecraft's soundtrack is how little is actually happening at any given moment. Most of the music is built on sparse piano textures. Instead of full arrangements or layered instrumentation, the pieces are often just a few notes at a time, with a lot of space between them. There are very few simultaneous voices, and notes are allowed to ring out and decay naturally. This creates a sense of openness rather than density. Tracks like Sweden and Wet Hands illustrate this clearly. The piano carries the entire piece, and even then, it avoids complexity. The harmonies are simple, the textures are thin, and there's no sense of overcrowding in the sound. Just as important, there are frequent gaps, moments where nothing new is introduced, allowing the listener's attention to drift without being pulled in a specific direction. And this has a direct effect on cognitive load. According to the cognitive load theory, first developed by John Sweller, working memory has a limited capacity, meaning only a certain amount of information can be processed at once. Cognitive load is often divided into intrinsic load, which comes from the difficulty of the task itself, and extraneous load, which comes from additional or unnecessary information that competes for attention. In a study context, intrinsic load is already present in the material being learned. Tasks like reading, or writing, or problem solving require sustained attention and working memory resources. When additional stimuli are introduced, such as background music, they can increase extraneous cognitive load and interfere with performance if they demand too much processing. Music with dense textures, multiple layers, or rapid changes demand more from listeners. Even if you're not actively trying to analyze it, your brain is still processing all of that information, and this can compete with whatever task you're trying to focus on, whether that is reading, writing, or problem solving. Research in auditory cognition supports this idea, suggesting that more complex or highly variable sound environments require greater mental processing and can reduce performance on cognitively demanding tasks. And Minecraft's music does the opposite. By keeping the texture minimal, it reduces the amount of information the brain needs to process, allowing for more mental space to remain available for other tasks. Because there are fewer simultaneous elements and slower rates of change, the music introduces less extraneous cognitive load, making it less likely to interfere with working memory. And at the same time, the music isn't all empty. It has melody, harmony, and emotional tone. It is present enough to create a sense of atmosphere, but restrained enough that it does not take over your attention. And this balance is exactly what makes it effective, both in-game and outside of it. In Minecraft, the sparse textures leave room for player activity. You're free to build, explore, think without the music competing for your focus. And then in a study context, the same openness translates directly into mental space for concentration. The music does not demand attention. It allows attention to stay where you need it. Beyond its sparse textures, another key feature of Minecraft's music is slow harmonic rhythm. In many pieces, chords change gradually and linger for extended periods of time. Progressions unfold slowly without sudden shifts or unexpected modulations. Instead of creating tension and release through rapid harmonic movement, the music maintains a steady, continuous pace of tonal space. This has an important effect on how the music feels. Because the harmonies change slowly and predictably, the listener experiences a kind of emotional stability. There are no sharp turns, no dramatic buildups, and no moments that demand immediate attention. The music does not push you towards a specific emotional reaction. Instead, it creates a consistent, low-intensity atmosphere that you can remain in for long periods of time. This can also be understood through theories of musical expectation. In most Western tonal music, listeners naturally form expectations about where progression is going. When those expectations are disrupted by sudden harmonic changes or modulations, attention is drawn to the music as the listener processes the shift. This is often used intentionally in film and game scoring to heighten emotion or signal important moments. Minecraft's music largely avoids this kind of disruption. The harmonic rhythm is slow and the progressions are relatively predictable, and therefore there's less need for the listener to continuously update their expectations. The music does not require active tracking, which reduces the amount of cognitive engagement that's needed to process it. This is very different from more cinematic styles of game music. In games like Skyrim or Legend of Zelda, harmony is often used to signal important changes. Chord progressions can shift quickly to create tension, excitement, or urgency. Orchestral swells and sudden harmonic changes are designed to capture attention and reinforce key moments in the gameplay, and while this is effective for storytelling, it can be disruptive in a study context. Frequent harmonic changes require the listener to continuously adjust, which increases cognitive engagement in the music itself. Even subtle unpredictability can pull attention away from the primary task by prompting the brain to reassess what it's actually hearing. Minecraft just avoids this entirely. By maintaining slow, stable harmonic movement, the soundtrack minimizes emotional volatility. The listener isn't pulled in different directions, and there's no need to constantly reorient to new musical information. The harmonic environment remains consistent, allowing the listener to settle in rather than react to it. This creates a kind of predictable emotional environment, which is ideal for sustained concentration. When you're studying, you don't want your emotional state to fluctuate dramatically. You want consistency, something that supports focus rather than interrupts it. And in this way, Minecraft's harmonic design aligns closely with the needs of both gameplay and productivity. It provides continuity without distraction, allowing attention to remain steady over time. In addition to its texture and harmony, Minecraft's music also avoids strong melodic direction. In many musical contexts, melody is what drives the listener forward. It builds tension, it reaches climaxes, and resolves in satisfying ways. This sense of direction creates a kind of narrative within the music, something that asks the listener to follow along and anticipate what comes next. In much of Western tonal music, this process is closely tied to expectation, where melodic motion implies future resolution and encourages active listening. Minecraft's melodies work differently. Instead of moving towards clear climactic points, they tend to drift. Phrases are often short, repetitive, and centered around small groups of notes. There's little sense of buildup or release, and melodies frequently avoid strong resolution. Rather than telling a story, they simply exist with a harmonic space. In tracks like Sweden and Wet Hands, the melody does not demand attention. It does not signal something important is about to happen. It doesn't guide the listener towards a particular emotional peak. Instead, it loops gently, creating a sense of continuity without progression. From a cognitive perspective, this has important implications. Because the melody does not need to create a strong narrative arc, the listener isn't pulled into a process of anticipation. There's no need to track where the music is going or wait for a payoff. In more goal-directed melodies, listeners often subconsciously allocate attention to follow tension and resolution, and that requires a degree of cognitive engagement, even when listening passively. Minecraft's melodic design avoids this demand. By limiting range, reducing variation, and avoiding strong directional movement, the music does not invite the listener to actively follow it. Instead, it allows the attention to remain anchored elsewhere. This aligns closely with both Minecraft's gameplay and the act of studying. Minecraft does not impose a narrative on the player, and similarly, studying does not follow a dramatic arc. It is not the building toward a climax, but about maintaining steady engagement over time. Tasks like reading, writing, or problem solving require sustained attention, not emotional peaks in resolution. And music that avoids strong melodic direction supports this kind of activity. By removing the sense of forward drive, Minecraft's melodies allow its listeners' focus to remain on their own task rather than on the music itself. The sound becomes a continuous background presence rather than something that competes for attention. In this way, minimal melodic direction is not a limitation, but a design choice. It keeps the music aligned with environments that require long, uninterrupted concentration. Another defining feature of Minecraft's soundtrack is its dynamic restraints. Across most tracks, the music stays within a relatively narrow dynamic range. There are no sudden spikes in volume, no explosive accents, no heavy percussion driving intensity. Instead, the sound remains soft, controlled, and consistent from beginning to end. This constraint plays a crucial role in how the music supports attention. In many other video game soundtracks, dynamics are used to create excitement and emphasize important moments. Sudden increases in volume, dramatic contrasts, and powerful instrumental hits are designed to grab the player's attention. These techniques work well in action or narrative-driven contexts, where keeping the player engaged moment to moment is the goal, but in a study context, those same techniques can be disruptive. Sharp dynamic changes can break concentration. A sudden swell or loud accent forces the listener to reorient, even if only briefly. And over time, these interruptions can make it harder to maintain a steady focus. Minecraft avoids this by maintaining a kind of attentional equilibrium. The music does not demand a reaction, it does not surprise the listener or pull them out of their current mental state. Instead, it stays within a controlled range and allows it to blend into the background while still being present. This is also where a clear contrast emerges from the other popular game soundtracks we've mentioned. Music from games like Skyrim and again Legend of Zelda often feature wide dynamic shifts from quiet ambient moments to full orchestral climaxes, and while this creates a powerful emotional experience, it also means the music is constantly asking for your attention. Minecraft's soundtrack does the opposite. By avoiding dramatic contrast, it supports long-term consistency and focus, which is essential for both open-ended gameplay, like in Minecraft, and sustained cognitive work. In this way, dynamic restraint is not just an aesthetic choice, but a functional one. It ensures the music enhances the environment without interrupting it, and allows attention to remain stable over time. To fully understand why Minecraft's music works the way it does, it helps to place it within a broader historical context. The idea of music designed not to demand attention, but to exist alongside activity is not new. In the early 20th century, composer Eric Satie introduced the concept of furniture music, which he describes as music that should blend into the environment rather than stand out. It was meant to be heard, but not actively listened to. Rather than functioning as a performance to be focused on, Sadie imagined music as something closer to a background presence integrated into everyday life. This idea was unconventional at the time, as Western music had long been centered around attentive listening and formal presentation. By contrast, Sadie's work challenged the expectation that music must always carry meaning, narrative, or emotional direction. Instead, it could exist as part of the environment, shaping the atmosphere without requiring engagement. Later, Brian Eno expanded on this idea with the concept of ambient music, famously describing it as something that should be as ignorable as it is interesting. The goal was to create sound that could shape the atmosphere without requiring constant attention, allowing the listener to engage with it at their own level. Eno's work formalized ambient music as a genre, emphasizing balance between presence and restraint. A key aspect of this philosophy is that ambient music does not eliminate structure, but rather minimizes its demands on the listener. It avoids sudden changes, strong directional movement, and dramatic contrasts, instead creating a stable and continuous sonic environment. This allows the listener to either focus on the music or let it fade to the background, depending on their needs. Minecraft's soundtrack fits directly into this lineage. Although it was composed for a video game, its musical characteristics align closely with these earlier ideas. The sparse textures, slow harmonic movement, minimal melodic direction, and restrained dynamics all contribute to a listening experience that is present but not unobtrusive. The music creates a sense of space without dominating it. What makes this especially interesting is that Minecraft's music was not explicitly marketed as ambient music. Its primary function was to support gameplay, and yet it naturally exhibits the same qualities that Sadie and Eno were intentionally exploring. In this sense, Minecraft's soundtrack can be understood as an unintentional continuation of ambient music's principles applied within an interactive medium. And this connection helps explain its transition into study and productivity contexts. Modern YouTube study playlists and focus music streams can be seen as a continuation of this tradition of background listening. They're environments where music is not the main focus, but a tool for shaping attention and mood. Much like Sadie's furnishing music or Eno's ambient works, these playlists are designed to accompany activity rather than interrupt it. And Minecraft's soundtrack fits seamlessly into this space because it was already operating under the same principles. Its design allows for it to function both as immersive gameplay music and as effective background music for sustained concentration. And in this sense, its popularity as study music is not an unexpected shift, but part of a larger pattern. It reflects a continuity between earlier ambient music concepts and contemporary listening habits where sound is used to support sustained activity rather than command attention. Okay, so up to this point, the focus has been on the internal design of the music itself, but to fully explain its rise as study music, we also need to learn about how it moved outside the game. On YouTube, playlists featuring Minecraft music have accumulated millions of views. Titles like Minecraft Music for Studying, Relaxing Minecraft Soundtrack, and Ambient Game Music are widely circulated and recommended by the algorithm. These playlists are often hours long, designed for extended listening sessions, and are used by students around the world as part of their daily routines. Many of these videos are not short listening experiences, but extended environments. Some run for several hours, while others are looped or compiled to continuous streams meant to accompany long periods of uninterrupted work. In some cases, these are even presented as 24/7 study rooms, where Minecraft music plays alongside calm visuals of landscapes or in-game environments. The music is not positioned as something to listen to actively, but as something to exist alongside productivity. And what's interesting is that the music itself hasn't changed at all. The same tracks that were originally composed for in-game immersion are now being used in entirely different contexts. The function, however, remains remarkably similar. In Minecraft, the music supports open-ended activity. It plays while the player builds, explores, or gathers resources, tasks that are repetitive, self-directed, and sustained over long periods of time. In a study context, the activity changes, but the structure does not. Reading, writing, and problem-solving are also repetitive, self-directed, and extended tasks. The listener is engaged in something ongoing without a clear beginning or end, and without the need for constant external stimulation. And because of this, the music translates seamlessly. The shift from gameplay to productivity is not a complete transformation, but rather a change in context. The soundtrack continues to do what it was originally designed to do, support sustained attention without directing it too strongly. This transition is also reinforced by digital platforms. Recommendation algorithms on YouTube and streaming services tend to group similar listening experiences together, meaning that once Minecraft music became associated with relaxation or focus, it's repeatedly suggested in those same contexts. Over time, this strengthens the connection between the soundtrack and productivity, embedding it within study culture. And this is why the migration feels so natural. Rather than being repurposed, Minecraft's music was already compatible with these new environments. The rise of YouTube music study culture simply revealed a use case that was already latent within its design. In this way, the popularity of Minecraft music in productivity spaces is not about a reinterpretation, but about a rediscovery. The shift can also be understood in terms of how people choose what kind of music to study with in the first place. Let's be real, there's no shortage of ambient music or focused music available. Ranging from lo-fi hip-hop to classical playlists to specially designed productivity soundscapes. However, Minecraft's soundtrack doesn't just stand out because of its structure, but because of its familiarity. For many listeners, Minecraft's music isn't something new. It's something that they've already spent hours with, often in a relaxed and self-directed context. Because of this, the music carries a sense of nostalgia, but a very specific kind. It is not tied to intense moments, dramatic narratives, or high-stakes gameplay. Instead, it's associated with exploration, creativity, and open-ended time. And that distinction is exactly what matters. Nostalgia can often be distracting when it's tied to strong emotional memories, pulling attention away from the present task. However, research on music and memory suggests that familiar music can also create a sense of comfort and stability, and even increase behavioral performance without requiring active attention, especially when it's associated with lexical semantic processing. This helps explain why listeners may choose Minecraft music over other forms of ambient productivity music. While genres of lo-fi or classical music are designed to be unobtrusive, they're still external to listeners' personal experience. Minecraft music, by contrast, already exists within the listener's memory as a background sound. It does not need to be reinterpreted or adjusted to fix a study environment because it already functioned in a similar way during gameplay. In this sense, the transition from immersion to productivity is not just structural, but also a psychological one. The music is not only effective in terms of its compositional features, but also in how it's remembered and recognized by the listener. It feels natural to return to and easy to maintain over long periods of time. This combination of structural change and nostalgic familiarity makes Minecraft's soundtrack uniquely suited to study environments. It's not just another form of ambient music, but one that listeners already associate with sustained, self-directed activity. That familiarity reduces friction in choosing and maintaining a focused environment, reinforcing its role within modern study habits. Minecraft's soundtrack did not accidentally become study music. As we've seen, its core musical features, including sparse textures, slow harmonic rhythm, minimal melodic direction, and dynamic restraints, were all designed to support a specific kind of experience, one that's open-ended and self-directed in immersion. The music avoids guiding emotion too strongly, avoids demanding attention, and instead creates a stable, continuous environment for activity. And these same qualities are exactly what makes Minecraft music effective for sustained concentration. By leaving cognitive space open, maintaining emotional stability, avoiding narrative drive, and minimizing disruption, Minecraft's soundtrack aligns closely with the needs of studying and other forms of focused work. It does not compete for attention. It supports it. When placed within the broader history of ambient music, this connection becomes even clearer. Like the work of Eric Satie or Brian Eno, Minecraft's music operates as background sound that is present without being intrusive. It exists in that balance of being noticeable but not demanding. And so the rise of Minecraft music on YouTube study playlists then is not a transformation of its purpose, but rather an extension of it. The listening context just changed from gameplay to productivity, but the function remained the same. In both cases, the music supports long periods of engagement without directing the experience too strongly. This is why Minecraft's soundtrack feels so natural in study environments. It was always designed for it, not explicitly, but structurally. And that's what makes its success outside the game not surprising, but inevitable.